you can start answering first. Denise, would you like to break the ice?
I'll break the ice. Okay. So hi. So I've been in UX maybe a year and a half now. I've started by doing a boot camp. So I think most of you have also done a boot camp course, if I'm not wrong. But my previous original background was very interesting because, well, one, nobody really knows about it, and two, it's very, very different from design. So I come from chemistry background, and I did food technology before. I was working for a fragrance manufacturing company. It's called Givaudan. Sorry about my dog. Uh, anyway, so what I would do before, I was an account manager, and I would basically grow the portfolio of like the Nestle's, the Unilevers, all the products that you find on the shelf in the grocery, and make flavors for them. So it's very interesting. I eat the whole day. But at one point, I felt like there was something that was missing, and that was the impact side of it. And I know some people might think it's a fluffy word, but I just didn't feel like I was growing in the direction that I want to in my career. And so after that, when I moved to Australia, I was making a decision about my career, where I'm gonna go, what's next for me. And I met someone who was a UX designer, and she was explaining to me everything about UX, and I was very interested in it. So I started watching Dan Norman videos, looking at YouTube, what the heck is UX? And then I started, researching and decided to go for a boot camp. So now I'm working at the data-driven digital agency here in Sydney. And basically we do everything from websites and apps, and I'm in charge of doing the end-to-end experience from UX to UI. So they've trained me to be a hybrid. But yeah, so that's in a nutshell about me.
Thank you, Denise. That's a very interesting switch from food to UX. Let's move to you. Would you like to share your background with us?
Sure, thank you. So my name is Yu, and then the short story is, I I was a psychology undergrad, and then I studied at CM. And this year I graduated and got a job in New York as a UX designer. So this is the short version. The long version was when I was a psychology major, I feel like I want to do something that have a practical impact in the world. So I kind of find this middle ground about applied research or user research that I really think I enjoy doing. And then during the pandemic, when I was working on several projects, mainly as a designer, so I feel like I really have a passion about design as well. So I kind of make this pivot from research to design during this pandemic. And after a lot of interviews and rejections and everything that you would experience, I guess. I am joining a startup in New York as a UX designer. So that was me.
Thank you. We'll come back to all those interesting bits that you went through. Let's move on to Katrina. I think you're on mute.
Yes,
Katrina.
yes. Sorry about that. Hi everyone. So my stories is probably not as interesting as this too. So I used to work in financial services, and my area was mainly in financial compliance advisories and risk management. So it was quite different. I spent probably about 6-7 years in financial services, and I think I was getting to a point where I thought the work I did was probably not I really want to do in the long run. It was quite strategic, and it was also very analytical, which both of the things that I enjoy. But I also wanted something that's more creative. So I started probably looking into doing a switching careers at the end of 2017. And I didn't really know what UX was. I was just really looking into different options, and UX for some reason just popped up from nowhere. So I looked into it, and I had a feeling that that might be a good combinations of creativity, being strategic as well as analytical. So I spent about a year and a half. That was before COVID. Looking like actually going into different meetups and reading different articles and speak to people in the industries to understand what it actually is like being a UX designer. So I decided that I'm going to make a switch in 2019. So that was a long period. So it was probably about a year and a half research before I actually make a decision. So I joined a boot camp. I was in the same class as Denise. Um, and it was July last year, and after the 3 months, I landed a job, and it was actually in a different country. So I moved from Sydney to Auckland in New Zealand, because I decided that like if I have to make it work, then I am going to take a opportunity that I wouldn't want to miss. Um, and so yeah, and that was an accounting software company. So I am currently a product designer. So we do both research, UX, and UI as well. Yes, that's me.
Thank you, Katrina. I think that's a really valuable point there. 1.5 years of research into the profession you're going to make a switch into. I would really want everyone to take a note of that, because that's something that a lot of us miss upon, after graduating from uni or a boot camp. It does take a lot of self learning as well, and, going to meetups, which you are doing by joining us here. And Katrina, you did answer my next question, which was going to be, how long did it take you? So 3 months after boot camp, right? Denise, and you, would you like to answer? Like, how long did it take you, and how was the job hunting process overall?
So for me, I think I landed a job 2 or 3 months after I graduated. So it was in August. So I got a job in October or late September. So maybe a little bit less than 2 months. But I actually started applying way before pandemic even began. So, but I really started applying in June or July. So that would, the entire process would be, I guess, 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
So for me, it was a little bit different. So I am not sure what the boot camps, I mean, for the people here who have attended boot camps, we had a grad night. So basically it was a night where we could showcase our work, and then Academy XI had all these industry leaders attend the event. So it was a networking event basically. And then that's how I found my employer. So again, networking. And he was very interested in the personal project I did, which is about food. I call it food cycler. It was about recycling food waste, because I'm really passionate about sustainability. Anyway, so I met him through there, and then I actually didn't get a job, like a paid job at first, and it wasn't a full-time role. So what he said was, I found you very interesting and your work, and I could see your potential. I'm keen to offer you an internship in our company. So that's how I got connected with my current role. So I started as an intern for I think 3 months, and then I was able to prove my worth to them, and then they were able to make me permanent after 3 months. And that's how I'm still in the company. And he became my mentor. So Nick, his name is Nick. He became a mentor throughout, and he was really nice. So yeah, it was a bit different than with the job hunt experience, but networking really played a key role for me. And taking a bite of chances, and like it was an internship role. It wasn't like a full-time role or anything, but it was a good experience to really boost up my portfolio as well as learning.
Amazing. How different journeys are shaped differently. And I think, Denise, what you mentioned, that you met a mentor, I think that's great, because a lot of us, we realize quite late, or we get to know quite late in our journeys, that we should actually get mentors who can guide us as to, what's the best way we can proceed further in our careers. So moving on to the next question. So would you like to highlight any particular challenges that you faced during your job search, and how did you overcome them? Katrina, let's start with you. You're on mute, sorry.
You're on mute, girl. Sorry.
Sorry. So I've gone through 2 job hunts now. So the first is when I graduated, and the second is after COVID. So I was made redundant. So I was going for another round of job search. So I think the 2 times is a bit different. So the first time, what was your questions again? Sorry. My experience doing job search. Yes.
Any particular challenges?
I think the first time the challenge was don't have any really any experience. So the only things that I could showcase was the projects that I did during boot camp. And I think I very soon realized that especially when you're going through recruitment agencies, they don't they don't really count this work as real projects, although you may be working with clients offered by those projects that you're still working with clients, but they still don't see it as a real project. So, and I think that was a really big challenge. And I guess how I overcome it is because I had been doing a lot of networking when I was doing the before I made the switch, so I already sort of have like an established network of people that I could reach out to, and it was one of those people that I networked with actually set me up for the role that I got before, because he was actually just because he worked at that particular company, and when I saw that there's a role there, instead of going through the official channel, I actually submitted my CV internally for him. So networking had played a big part. And I think the second time, which is job searching during the pandemic, that posed another layer of challenges. And for me, is although I already have experience now, and I have real life projects that I could show, a lot of the times because there is so much talent in the market, it still counts as not enough experience because I had only been there for 6 months. And I think this time it was I don't know really how to articulate how to overcome the challenges, but I think it's being don't be too hard on yourself, but also be consistent. I think that was this time that the approach that I took, and knowing that like sometimes it's just the time that you're going to take. And I think the market is actually picking up now, and I've seen a lot more roles on the market because things are actually getting better. So yeah.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that story, Katrina. I think personally, even I've experienced, how networking plays an important role. So thank you for sharing that bit. What about you? Let's move on to you. What were some challenges?
Sure, I guess one same challenge I encountered is no real projects. So a lot of client-based projects are not really valuable in the eye of the employer. So I guess just to talk about it a little bit more, it is because they don't know if you can work under real constraints. They don't know if you can work under time constraint, like peer pressure, like conflicts of interest, all of these difficulties. Can you really encounter those when you're put into a real workforce? So I guess because of that, when I think about that this way, the way the way I overcame this challenge a little bit was to try to think about every project I did and try to really think about how I collaborated with other folks and then try to think about failure as a really good learning opportunities, because there are a lot of things that you can learn from a failed projects, and then a lot of learning there about collaboration, about communication that you can improve yourself. So I guess as a junior person, even though they expect you to have a lot of experience already, but in a way you can show that you have the potential by really think about but really think about the past projects you have done and think about the element, like distill the elements they care about and present it to them to show them, yes, I do have a lot of client-based projects, but yes, I still have potential to work in a like multidisciplinary team. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, thanks for touching on that, you and Katrina. You know, like when we're often told it's a classic chicken and egg situation when you're told that you don't have enough experience, but you know, to get experience, you actually need to get hired. So it's amazing you touched upon that. And yeah, networking and failure and collaboration. I think soft skills are the ones that you highlighted. So I would just, you know, sort of reiterate for our listeners that. Even projects that you do with UX Rescue, you definitely, those soft skills are the ones that get touched upon. So if you haven't found a project yet, this is a good time, you know, because even putting a volunteer project qualifies as a real project because it is, we are solving problems for someone who actually needs them to be solved. So yeah, Denise, what were some of your challenges?
I just want to build upon the point of you and Kriti with that conversation. So I know I have a job now, but there was one recruiter who was trying to recruit me for another opportunity. And it was also, yeah, we also faced that challenge with just presenting your boot camp, let's say, projects and everything, and it doesn't really count. But what I really did as well was really be proactive and digging deep into the experiences that you've had before. So one again was soft skills. I All of you, or maybe some of you, even if you're new or just transitioning to UX, you had your past life. And one of the best recommendations and advice I got from I think someone from Academy XI was really looking at your soft skills and see how you could match that to a UX job. So let's say in my role before, I was doing accounts and I was handling projects. And this is how I like to pitch myself. Before, I was doing product innovations for flavors and, let's say, making like seasonings for shapes and everything, right? Or an ice cream. Now I'm doing digital product innovations, but for apps and for websites, for services. But it's like the same equation, same, but different. But you have some skills from there that you could still transition, and it still counts. So you still have to really, one of the exercise I did was getting a piece of paper and really looking down and writing down literally my skills and how I could kind of tie it up to the UX world, if that makes sense. And then the second one was this recruiter story I was telling you. She was messaging me about a possible role in an agency that does a lot of social enterprise clients, that has a lot of social enterprise clients and projects. And because I'm currently doing a project with UX Rescue with an NGO in Victoria, which is saving injured wildlife in the roads, the one that gets hit by cars. And so we're kind of working with them to reassess their process as well as make their website more accessible. So I was just using this as a story, as a real life project to connect with that recruiter and tell her of my example as well. So I could say that if you could be proactive outside of your work, even if you have a job or you don't have a job, looking at UX Rescue, looking at even if you have your own business, you could also scale that up and use as an experience. So outside of my work as well, I try to be proactive because I have a business back home in Manila. So we're trying to make an e-commerce website out of that with my mom. It's an online catering business. So what I'm basically saying is that look at all your side hustles, look at all your past experiences and see where you could drive your strength from it. And looking at writing down your skill set and making sure that if you have this piece of paper, it's very clear. Have an elevator pitch when you pitch yourself to a recruiter or someone in a networking event. You know who you are and your place and your story, and having that alignment really, really helps, I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. That's quite valuable again. And, you know, I think it's just translating all that's there inside our heads to putting it down to paper and, you know, in form of a story so that you can always refer back to that story when you're applying for a job or meeting someone at a networking event. So moving forward from that question and points that Denise touched upon, how did you sort of translate your story to your resume? You know, how did you tweak it for every job? Did you customize it? Did you put all the skills in one? How did you approach resumes? Let's start with Trina on this one.
I remember to unmute myself this time. So I only have one version of my resume. So I know that there are people who sort of have different versions and use different use them depending on what kind of roles that you're looking for. But I think for me, I intentionally kept my CV quite broad in the sense that it mainly it can showcase that I have done collaborations and I have worked with multidisciplinary teams and then also showcase some of the impact of the work that I've done before. And because I know that I wouldn't be applying for a UI role and will mainly be UX and research focused, so I highlighted my analytical skills on my CV. And I guess it also depending on the type of role that you're looking for. So if you're focusing on agencies or more UI focused roles, then your CV maybe showcase some of your the visuals and sort of grab that visual attention. But for me, I sort of kept it really just very basic actually. So and I guess I have my descriptions of my roles and my projects that are quite detailed. So I think for me it was more of what's the word that I'm looking for? More yes, so detailed, and then also showcase that you can write as well. And I think I think the CV is the first step of looking for a job. But so my approach of sending out CV is I don't do like a blanket approach. I'm more specifically focusing on some organizations. So my strategy was once I send out my CVs and for maybe 10 times, and if I have no response at all, then I will start thinking whether or not there's something that I need to tweak in my CV, and then try again and see if that will change. I guess change the response that I will get back.
Thanks, Katrina. Yeah, it makes sense. I've also done that a couple of times. If I'm not getting response, tweak it. And then if I am, okay, I know that, okay, I'm doing something right this time. Okay, let's move on to you. How did you go about your resumes?
Yeah, so I also have only one resume for UX design. And I also have a separate one for UX research because those are two different roles. But for design, I only have one. And I don't really do customization for different companies, except for the fact that I really want that job, but they didn't respond to me, and none of those. So I only have one resume throughout the journey. And I guess like for each experience, I try to highlight what is the product itself, because I work on smaller products, so people might not know what I was working on. And then secondly, what was the skills I applied in the UX spectrum that I applied in this job. For instance, some jobs might lean toward visual design and others might be more research focused or interaction focused. So you do want to highlight different skill sets for different roles to make sure that the recruiters know for this role, this person did this, and then for that role, this person did that. And then I guess another important thing is to highlight who you collaborated with on your resume. I find that to be really helpful because they're looking for someone who can collaborate, say, with engineers or product managers, and you want to showcase that you have this experience before. And lastly, if you have any, you can show your impact of your design work. Numbers is always, I guess, powerful tools to really lure someone to take a look at your portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a gold point that you've made, you. Numbers is what usually attracts hiring managers. Okay, let's move to Denise.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think in every resume, whether you are UX, UI, or even outside of human-centered design, you have to be able to write down what are the things that you have achieved in your CV. So I have a little bit there where I say, for example, if you work on a specific digital product, you could say, when I worked on this product and I did this, I did X, it increased by X%, or engagement increased by X%. You really have to list down what are the goals that you've hit and let that shine through your CV. The other one is, and I'm not sure if it will apply for everyone, but if you're doing a lot of digital products with different clients and different brands, I also put a bullet point there that says these are all the clients that I've worked with. Again, because I'm in an agency, so I work with a lot of products. But let's say if you don't have that, maybe you could highlight yes, the different stakeholders that you've worked with, or let's say you've worked with like a marketing manager or all of the other bootcamp projects and clients. Put the logos, put their brand. It will really help to tell the story about the project that you've worked on with them. What are the other things that I've placed? Oh, the last one is that when I try to apply for new roles, I make it to a point to write like a little short cover letter as well. And I don't know if it will help, but usually it'll say like a little bit about yourself, your background, and that I would say, Kriti, to your question, that's basically what I customize. I have a template of like my cover letter. So the first paragraph will be like a little pitch about myself, and then the second paragraph is why I want to work for that company and how I see myself fit for that role. So I look at the JD beside it and I kind of put it side by side, and then I write down all the things. So if they have little responsibilities, requirements, and that I need to fulfill, I look at my strengths and see where I could match. Does that make sense? Like I match it, and then that's how I write my cover letter.
Completely makes sense. Yeah, because how else would the employer know that you're really interested in joining them? So I think that's a great point, Denise. Thanks for that. I just want to say, if any of you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We will be taking them all towards the end. Okay, moving on to our next question. So we've touched upon resumes. Denise covered cover letters as well. Let's talk about portfolios now. Would you like to start this time? How did you think your portfolio stood out to hiring managers? What was that extra thing that you did beyond the usual, and how many projects did you put in?
Okay, so it's a huge question. So let me try to break it down. I want to talk a little bit about how do I structure my portfolio as a whole, and then how do I structure my case studies, and then just generally how I think about what value portfolio is to the recruiters. So the way I structure my portfolio as a whole is that I included 4 projects, 2 school projects and 2, I guess, side projects with real clients. And then I put those side projects front and center, and my school projects a little bit behind. And then the 4 projects are in different domains. Some are web-based and some are mobile-based. So it kind of gives the recruiter, I want to give the recruiter a sense of I can do like designs for different platforms. And in a nutshell, the way I structure my case study is different based on different projects. So for school projects, I use a really simple process-based storytelling. What is the problem? What research did you do? What is the ideation you made? And what is usability testing? Because school projects or bootcamp projects are usually pretty linear in the way that every step is predefined for you. So you can just curate every step and then create a story out of it. So that was easy, but for side projects, I really try to, I really try different storytelling. One is challenge-based storytelling. So I try to think about what are the biggest challenge I faced when I was working on this project, and try to just focus on those really important stuff and ignore all others, even though I did information architecture, for instance, it's not super interesting, so I'm not going to show it. So a lot of curation on that project as well. And another project, I try to emphasize on collaboration, and then how I guess I collaborated with other designers and product managers, engineers. So the third story was more of a collaboration-based storytelling. So in a nutshell, each project is different. It took me really a lot of time to think about what is the strengths, what is the highlights I want to show to recruiters in this project, and what is the best storytelling format to tell that to the recruiter. And I guess lastly, I feel like the value portfolio to the recruiter is just good enough. So it's an MVP, and that's okay. So it might surprise some of you, but I don't think portfolio is the most important thing during an interview or job search process. It definitely gets you that interview, but as long as the moment you get the interview, it's really about how you present, and then the behavior questions you answer that makes you stand out to other candidates. So, but that being said, portfolio is how you get that interview, so it's still important. Yeah.
Thank you, Zhu. Thank you, you. You almost touched upon my next question as well, which we'll address soon. But yes, I think portfolios are a vast topic, and like it is a short time for you to answer all of this. I'm sure you'll get questions afterwards after our session as well. Let's move to Katrina for the same question. Katrina, any special tips for portfolios from you?
Actually, I completely agree with you about portfolio not being the most important part in the job search. And I know there are a lot of talks about different style of portfolios and what you need to include in portfolio. And I completely 100%, 120% agree that it just needs to be just good enough. My portfolios is probably, it's really, really simple. I have no visuals on my first page. It's basically just 3 projects, and I have a short introductions of myself. I don't even have an about me page, because I think it's when I guess once it comes back to what are the type of organizations that you're targeting. So because I love working in software, and I know that for me, I'm more of an in-house designer than an agency-based designer. So I think it's, for me, my focus is to actually write the portfolio, my case studies in a logical way. So the things that they, like the way that I structure every single case studies on my portfolios are actually quite similar. So the way that it breaks down to what is the product, what are the problems that we are trying to solve, and the process that we use, and how I collaborate with the team during that process. And then also what are some of the challenges that we face and how we overcome it. And the last part, which I didn't think that it was that important, but when I was doing my portfolio, my design managers actually review it for me, and they actually highlighted that they loved the what I've learned section, because they wanted to know that how you failed, what areas that you don't think it went well, and how you learn from it, and what you could have done, if you had more time, or how you would change your approach. So it was basically just that. Once I put it out, and I know that I've been getting interviews from the CV and the portfolio, then I don't really touch it. I don't keep updating my portfolio unless I have new project to add. So I actually didn't spend too much time on portfolio, and because I think it's just a step for you to get that get the interview itself. And the most important thing once you get the interview for me was actually prepare your portfolio presentation, and that's something that will I guess help you stand out during the interview process.
Thanks for that, Katrina. Yeah, I think you made a really great point there. Walking through your portfolio is quite important. Usually hiring managers, they ask like at least one project for us to walk them through, and so that they can understand that A, we're the ones who've made this portfolio, and B, how collaborative we were. And something that both you and Katrina touched upon are failures and our learnings from them, which is, I think, really important as UX designers, because our process is iterating, reiterating on the basis of feedback from users. So I think that completely makes sense. Yeah. And Denise, how was your process?
I would say pretty the same as you and Katrina as well. Although I would say my portfolio, because I'm in the middle of changing my portfolio. So if you look at my current portfolio, I put it up, but it's like super MVP. And my case studies aren't as exhaustive as I wanted it to be, but it did get me into some interviews because some of the interviews would ask you to do a design presentation anyway. So again, the portfolio is like kind of a foot in the door, although it's important, but just making sure that you have all the elements that you and Katrina has mentioned, which is basically the same as what I have been doing and still doing and still improving it, by the way. But one of the things that I heard as well is making sure that you focus on the process instead of the visuals. It will add eye candy, always helps, especially if you have any talent in animation as well, and putting your work into mock-ups, that really helps. But it's the process that counts. And if you don't have that, because that's what the recruiters are mostly looking for, the hiring managers, mostly they ask you, how did you derive on your solution, and how did you derive on identifying the problem. And one of the things that could be also useful is including the main insight that you have for that particular project. And thirdly, what you mentioned was I could also identify, because you was mentioning you pick the case studies that one, you again, you feel the most proud of, but secondly, that would demonstrate a plethora of your skills. So let's say you have worked on an app project, and maybe, and then you, if you are trying to position yourself as a person who could do different digital products, a software, maybe a website or an app, it would be maybe useful to have an example of each if that's how you're positioning yourself. Or like, let's say Katrina, she's more an in-house designer and looking at softwares, then her case studies kind of connect that, and she fit that to her own strengths and personality, and picking the case studies are more software based than the other projects that she could have done. So it's really picking, strategically choosing what works for you, and what is your career goal basically, and what are the type of companies that you want to apply for, because it will be different. So with all three of us, we have different backgrounds. They're working in-house, I'm working in an agency. So you just have to choose which one you want to be focusing on, or what's your career ambition and career goal, and kind of tie it up to that. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Thank you, all of you, for these answers. I'm going to quickly race through the last final few questions, because we have to take our audience's questions as well. So I noticed all of you mentioned collaboration a lot. Along with that, what are some soft skills that you use on a day-to-day basis, that soft and probably hard skills as well, that, you know, our listeners and our audience can start practicing or building upon once they get their foot in the door? Would you like to start?
You mean soft skills? What are the, okay, cool. I guess one of the most important thing is collaboration. Not only collaboration with a cross-functional team, but then also collaboration with your client, and then with other designers. So I guess there's, sorry, let me rephrase. There are three pieces here. One is cross-domain team, like engineers, product managers. The second piece is your clients, your stakeholder, maybe someone in a higher level position than you. And then the third one is other designers that you'll be working with. So collaboration is definitely something really important here. And I guess to practice for like the best way to practice collaboration, one is to collaborate on a project, and second is to think about your past failures and success, and then think about how you can improve yourself. And then another soft skill I think is important is standing up for design. So this might, like, I don't know, like maybe it's not important for other people, but for me, when I was interviewing, most companies I was interviewing for are startups. So they usually look for someone who can build the design team together. So they want to have a stronger design voice on the team. So for designers, they kind of want to show how you persuade other stakeholders in a very diplomatic way to really sell your design in a very polite but also persuasive way. So persuasion is something, persuasion and selling your design, standing up to your design, the other part that I feel like they really value, and it's really important as well.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's thanks you. No, thanks you. I'm so sorry. That's something different. I'm hearing, in interviews, standing up for our designs. That is definitely, I think, a tip that we're all going to take away. Katrina, would you like to answer?
Yes. So I think apart from collaboration, one of the most important things, especially when you're working in product as a product designer, is because you do both research as well as UI, as design. One of the important skill I found is to be able to break down all your research information and then translating into bits and pieces that the business can understand. So very often you've done this great, amazing research, but sometimes people don't really listen to you because some of the designers may just they're not able to translating those informations into something that we can being a product that we can actually build on. So I think having that ability is kind of important. And then the second thing is what you has elaborated on was being able to deal with very difficult stakeholders. So very often I'm here referring to product managers. So because they're very busy and a lot of times they give you a very tight deadline, and then they expect you to do something that you probably need 2 months to do, and then give you 2 days. So some of those things, being able to manage the expectations on what kind of quality that you will be delivering if they're only giving you 2 days. And then also letting them know what are the limitations if you don't have more time. So those are the things I found. These two are very important along with collaboration.
Thank you, Katrina. And yes, we get to know all of these with experience. So I'm glad you can share your experience with our audience. So we're just going to have to extend the session by 10 minutes. Sorry if we're taking a lot of your time, everyone, but just so that we can answer all your questions. Denise, would you like to answer on soft skills?
With soft skills, yep. So they mentioned collaboration a lot, but one of the things that I would say is that could add as well is being able to carry yourself well. So most of the time you'll be working with people, and they did say this earlier, that you need to sell sometimes what you're wanting, like the idea that you want. But so that's really, really important, being able to present your ideas clearly. And secondly is that you will have a lot of stakeholders that you'll be working with. You'll be working with, yes, the project managers. You'll be working with engineers, developers, but most of all, you'll also be working with the client itself. So you have to be able to have that skill of managing all of your different stakeholders and managing their expectations. So if you have any experience of that in your past life or in school or anywhere, it's also really good to highlight that. And I would like to get into the point of what I was trying to say earlier as well. Having all these soft skills, yes, we're listing down all of like the key soft skills that recruiters or hiring managers may look for, but you may also have other soft skills that you want to let shine based on your past life, again, because I know a lot of us are transitioning, and you may be transitioning from a different completely industry, just like mine. I was in chemistry, but there's always something that you could highlight. I have a friend who is from architecture, and she was like, I really don't know how to position myself. But I asked her, did you handle projects? Did you talk to clients? Those are like some of the questions that you could ask. And if you can tick some of those boxes, you have the soft skills for them. So you could sell that. You could position yourself. So yeah, so I think really one, tying up your, again, having that sheet of paper and just writing it all down and see. And secondly, like what Katrina and you said, it all goes down to stakeholder management, collaboration, knowing your team, and being able to be also a flexible team player in our industry, in the tech world, it's always by teams. You're never working alone. So it's also good to highlight that if you have experiences or examples to tell your hiring manager and recruiters how you worked in a team, that's very, very, very valuable as well.
I guess I want to echo what Denise has said about, yes, there are some soft skills that recruiters are looking for, and those are really important to highlight. But at the same time, you yourself has unique value proposition or unique soft skills that you think you learned from your past life, that definitely you should highlight those to recruiters or hiring managers as well, because you're not only having all the skills they're looking for, but you're having something else, and then you never know if this is something that really interesting them. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not made out of one cookie cutter. Because like people will always write it down, right? You need collaboration skills, stakeholder, or like blah 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 skills. And yes, you can tick all these boxes that are always a priority in the tech world. But how do you set yourself apart? I know I'm talking too much, but one last thing. Our mentor, the same class where Katrina and I was at, David, I remember him telling me, "Oh no, do you think everyone who's trying to go to UX or shift to UX, are we too late? Are we too late? Like, because this boomed like 2015, 2016." And that's what he said was, you really need to think about what is really unique with you. Yes, they're looking for all of these skills and soft skills, but what can you put into the table that maybe some person is lacking? So really looking at that and having that exercise of having those soft skills add on, like what you were saying, could really kind of amp up your game when you're put against a row of people. It's good to have that cookie cutter thing, but what drives you apart? What sets you apart, right?
Yeah, great points there. And, finding your unique selling point will always help us. And not only in just job seeking, but, how we want to take our careers forward. So, that is something that we should all take note of. A lot of note taking today. I could see some people through the video taking notes as well. Now, one final question from UX Rescue, and then we'll take the audience's questions. So who are some industry leaders that you follow via podcasts or videos or books that you would recommend? Would you like to go first?
Sure. I was just looking up this designer I followed, Thomas Sharon. He is okay, so he wrote a lot of books about user experience matrices. He worked at Google and Bloomberg, or somewhere else, Goldman Sachs. So he really ties up user experience with the business side of the world. So trying to make user experience speak the language of product and business. So I felt like that was really insightful for me when I was trying to collaborate with product managers, but at the same time, when I'm trying to understand what really are my design adding value to the team. So Thomas Sharon is someone I follow in the industry.
Cool. And Katrina?
Yes, I don't think I follow a specific person per se. So I do read a lot of medium articles, and then also a lot of the things that people post on LinkedIn. But I guess if there's one industry leaders that I listen to, probably every single word that he said would be Jared Bull. I've met him in person last year in Sydney, and he's absolutely amazing. And I guess one of my favorite YouTube channel. Sorry, I actually don't remember the name. So basically, I get back to you on that one. But basically, I do listen to a few of the podcasts. I'm just looking it up. I'm not really good with names.
Is it the Crazy One by Stephen Gates? I'm just throwing a random name there.
Is that the one you've sent me, Katrina?
Oh no, I think that one is more focused on doing interviews and
okay.
research. Yeah, but I think there's a few subscriptions that I've got. So dollars to donut. That's really good. And then also there's one called UX podcast. So I like sometimes they have like very interesting topics. And Planet Money. So Planet Money, it's not really UX. It's more about the economy and how it behavioral science. So and how the way that it influences the way that we spend money, the way that we look at the world. So I think a lot of times I look beyond UX and read things about behavioral economics and psychologists. And I think those are the things that it may not be specifically focused just on UX, but it also shapes the way that you think. So yeah.
Wow, there are a lot of resources. I think Team UX Rescue, we can probably make a list and send it to our attendees.
Yeah, actually, good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, Denise, your turn.
So I'll keep mine short and sweet. Basically, I'll just be putting down the links in our chat because I was looking for them while you guys were sharing. One of them was a podcast. If you're into podcasts, it's called This is HCD. They have a lot of different topics that they cover. Hold on, I'll just paste it. This is HCD. The other one that I like listening to as well is I go to YouTube and they have a lot of different human-centered design talks at awards. I'm not sure if you know them. It's awards, like the W is long. Well, I'll put it in the link below as well. So they feature different product designers from different companies, from Netflix to Pablo Stanley, who I really like as well. Yeah, or other agencies. So that's really, really good. Awards. I have one more link that I have opened up. So this one is if you're just interested on what are the best digital products that's happening in the industry. They also post some case studies there. So you could also look, that's the Webby Awards. I look at a lot of awards websites because usually they'll put their case study and then you could see their thought process on how they decided onto it. Last one is Ben Crothers. I think, Katrina, you and I went to the same meetup, right? He's from Atlassian, and he does a lot of like really good talks, as well as have a lot of resources that you could have a look into. Yeah, I pasted all the links in our chat, so you could just open them.
Oh, very exciting. And Katrina, you mentioned you've met Jared Spool. That's amazing. That's a story that we could share another time. And Denise, yeah, awards is something that even I follow quite closely because, you know, you could just watch their quite concise videos on YouTube. And, you know, they have examples on the website as well. Okay, so let's move to our audience questions at last. Okay, so Shruti is asking, can we put our past experience in our CV, even if it's not related to UI UX design? Does it count to make an impact? I think, Denise, you mentioned a lot about past experience. Would you like to take that question?
Yes. So in that CV, let me just look at Shruti's question. So what is more important for getting an interview, CV or portfolio? Is that the one? Sorry.
No. So
can we
about putting...
Sorry, I found it. Yes, I did put my past experience in my CV as well. So I have a section where so it's called experiences, and another section in my CV that's called transferable experience or other work experiences. And that's where I place basically my old life when I was doing accounts management before. And on the top, I put upfront all the UX experiences that I have, so they'll see. But at least you have a blend of both to show them like some of the soft skills and experiences that you have as well. It definitely counts.
Thanks, Denise. Because we're running short of time, we're just going to answer 2 more questions and we'll try emailing back with the answers to the ones that we couldn't answer today. Okay, where is the next question? Okay, so Harveen's asking, does the resume need to be sent for a job application include case studies, slide deck too, including portfolio link? question, another one, some examples of design challenges in interview. Probably that'll be a big one. So let's go for, yeah, sending a slide deck or a portfolio link in your resume. Katrina, would you like to answer that?
Yes, I'll keep this question short. So basically, I will send the CV. The CV will have my portfolio link, but not a case study slide deck. So that's more for during the interviews. So it's basically just sometimes the company will ask you for in the application they'll ask you to send a link of their portfolio, but yeah, it's it's just the CV and the portfolio link, I think.
Also, I want to add, like in mine, some of them ask though. I think it just really depends on what company you're going for. But I think the base is just a portfolio. Although with mine, they ask for a sample of a short presentation. Although I didn't really put my heart into it. It's just I put a short case study. Maybe I picked one or two, and then that's where I placed it. I think it will depend on where you apply, but I think portfolio should be one and CV.
Cool. One last question. So which is more important for getting an interview, CV or portfolio? We've sort of touched on this one previously, that portfolio is only to help you get the foot into the door, but would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, that's a good question, I guess. So I guess the process is they will look at your resume and then decide if they want to look at your portfolio. But if either one of them is not so good or not good enough, I should say, they're probably not going to give you an interview. So the answer is, I guess your resume needs to be good enough for the people to view your portfolio, and their portfolio needs to be good enough for them to give you an interview. That's my experience or my perception. Yeah.
Yeah, and any different or similar thoughts, Denise or Katrina?
I think you has captured it short and sweet.
Cool. Well, that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for taking out the time to our speakers and to our UX Rescue community. Sorry about the questions we couldn't answer. We're going to try and emailing back to you. And keep following us on LinkedIn, our social channels. You can tag us. We're on LinkedIn. We're slowly trying to get our Instagram active as well. Tag us on social channels, join our Slack. And if you have any questions, please reach out to any of our co-parents. And we're always available in different time zones. So it's good to probably find the one that you're closely associated to. And we have many other meetups lined up. So keep a close eye on our announcements channel in Slack, and also our LinkedIn and slowly Instagram. Any closing thoughts from any of our speakers?
Yeah, just want to add with some of the questions, we'll try to maybe we'll make a thread in Slack, and then we could just put all our answers there. And people, if you have more questions, it'll be really good to get much more engagement from you guys, so we know what you guys would need. So again, we'll put it in a Slack channel. Dahi, which Slack channel will be best for them so those people will know where to go? Is it probably announcements?
Yeah, I'll create a post on announcements, and then we can work on track to have this conversation.
Yeah. How do I join the Slack channel? Okay, well, we'll send the link. Sorry, I just saw the question there, so I just better answer it. We can send them the Slack link, right? There's also a Slack link that they could log in.
If you
or you could sign up.
uxrescue.org, there is a way to sign up as a volunteer, and also a link to join our Slack channel.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so just watch out for an announcement in our Slack channel. Sorry, since I'm plugging in the events, shamelessly plugging. There will be more events coming in November and December. We're trying to do it by like two meetups a month if we can. If not, at least once a month. So depending, we'll be inviting a lot more speakers to come and share their experiences from recruiters, as well as other people in the industry who may want to share more about design thinking in general and how they navigated through their UX journey. So it'll be really exciting. So just keep a watch out.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend and have a good Halloween for those in the US.
Thank you.